Have you heard the story of the biggest kingpin in America? Chances are that you've watched a movie about his life, but how much of it is true? Frank Lucas, the American gangster inspiring Harlem drug lord, started importing and selling blue magic heroin in the late 1960s and made a fortune doing it. Originally from Grange, North Carolina, he arrived in Harlem at the age of 14 in 1944, with little more than his nerves and his need to survive. Let's find out more about the young boy who went on to become the most powerful drug lord in America. Frank Lucas, who was born on September 9, 1930 in Grange, North Carolina, had a difficult childhood. Given his upbringing, he had to spend a lot of time taking care of his siblings. Also, he suffered as a result of living in the Jim Crow South. Lucas claims that he was first motivated to take up crime after witnessing the killing of his 12-year-old cousin Obadiah by Ku Klux Klan members when he was only 6 years old. Obadiah was shot and killed by the Klan after they believed he had indulged in some reckless eyeballing of a white woman. After beating up his former boss at a pipe firm and stealing $400, Lucas reportedly escaped New York in 1946, and he soon understood that the Big Apple had considerably greater financial potential. He moved to New York, where his illegal activities started to take shape. At gunpoint, Lucas would loot neighborhood taverns, steal gems from jewelry shops, and engage in all sorts of criminal behavior. He gradually became bolder and bolder with his crimes, committing everything from armed robberies of neighborhood taverns to diamond thefts from jewelry shops. Because of his antics, he caught the eye of Ellsworth "Bumpy" Johnson, a heroin dealer who finally drew Lucas's attention. Johnson served as a mentor to Lucas, teaching him everything he knew about the drug world. With his criminal enterprise, Lucas advanced Johnson's ideas, but there was a tragic and ironic twist to his determination to exact revenge on the KKK members who killed his cousin. He ended up causing mayhem in Harlem, one of New York City's most famous black neighborhoods, thanks to his deadly type of imported heroin known as blue magic. It's known to have destroyed them more than the KKK ever could. Johnson initially hired Lucas to drive him around while he taught him the game. Lucas claims that despite being renowned in the underworld, his boss had no interest in the drug trade. After Bumpy passed away unexpectedly in 1968, Lucas went on his own and rose to prominence. Over the course of the following 7 years, he developed from a thug to a self-proclaimed entrepreneur, earning millions of dollars annually. Yes, an entrepreneur, because he'd not let anyone call him a drug dealer. After Johnson passed away, Lucas went out and about and realized that in order to succeed, he would have to end the Italian mafia stronghold in New York. He eventually found his way to Jack's American Star Bar in Bangkok, Thailand, a popular spot for black servicemen. There he met another North Carolina native and former U.S. Army Sergeant Leslie Ike Atkinson there. The most bizarre aspect of all is perhaps how Frank Lucas got his hands on this blue magic. He allegedly used the coffins of dead troops returning from Vietnam to smuggle 98% pure heroin into the country. To his credit, Lucas claimed that he didn't place the smack inside or near to the bodies, as some people believe. Instead, he claimed to have flown in a carpenter friend to produce 28 replicas of official coffins that had been modified with false bottoms. Lucas claims to have smuggled heroin worth more than $50 million into the United States with the aid of former U.S. Army Sergeant Atkinson, who just so happened to be married to one of his cousins. In fact, he once boasted that a plane transporting Henry Kissinger had $100,000 of drugs hidden in it, and that he once pretended to be a lieutenant colonel to help with the operation. By the way, the movie based on his life does fabricate a lot of things, but Lucas himself was quite the exaggerator too, as you'll see more of ahead. Okay, if the alleged cadaver connection operation sounded too good to be true, it probably was. Atkinson asserts that he was never involved in the transportation of heroin using cadavers or coffins. Although he admitted to hiding drugs inside furniture, he insisted that Lucas wasn't responsible for discovering the connection. Only close friends and family from North Carolina were trusted by Lucas to manage his multiple heroin businesses. Why? Well, he believed that those people will have values unlike the people in huge metropolises like NYC, and so they were less likely to steal from him and give in to numerous vices. It may have been a lie how Lucas got his hands on black magic, but there's no doubting that it made him very wealthy. At one point, he claimed to be generating $1 million per day because he wanted to be as wealthy as Donald Trump, but that claim was ultimately shown to be false too. Now, Nicky Barnes is someone Lucas hated, and for good reason. He was the second king of the drug trade above 110th Street. But in fact, Nicky Barnes truly had the greater reputation and fame in the Harlem streets, despite what Lucas tried to convince the world. In the end, their flamboyance would bring down both men. Whatever the case, he was still keen to flaunt his newfound money. In order to support Muhammad Ali in a boxing battle, he made the decision to wear a $100,000 full-length chinchilla coat in 1971. He eventually admitted that this was a huge mistake though, because he apparently caught the attention of law enforcement, who were taken aback that he had better seats than Frank Sinatra and Diana Ross. According to reports, Lucas claimed to be worth around $52 million, the majority of which was held in Cayman Islands institutions. In addition to this, he'd have thousands of kilograms of blue magic on hand, which had a profit potential of at least $300,000 per kilo. With such a high profit margin, he was able to purchase real estate around the nation, including Detroit office buildings and Los Angeles and Miami condominiums. Also, he bought a ranch in North Carolina with many thousands of acres on which he kept 300 Black Angus cattle, including a breeding bull that cost $125,000. In subsequent years, Lucas said that he had once met Howard Hughes in one of Harlem's top clubs while mixing with the elite of the entertainment, political, and criminal worlds. Despite owning a number of mink and chinchilla coats, as well as other accessories, Lucas preferred to dress casually and professionally in order to blend in, at least sometimes. As fate would have it, he didn't have much time to appreciate the fruits of his labor. The infamously fur-clad Frank Lucas was arrested in 1975 after socializing with New York's wealthiest and most famous people. According to reports, American lawyer Richie Roberts played a part in the investigation, arrest, and prosecution of the defendant. Frank Lucas's wife, Juliana Ferrer Rodriguez, got sentenced to 5 years in jail after being found guilty of participating in her husband's criminal enterprise. She once claimed that because she and Lucas stayed together no matter what, people referred to them as Black Bonnie and Clyde. The drug lord was given a 70-year prison term and had his assets, including $584,683 in cash, seized. Later, Lucas reacted angrily to the low amount of cash found and claimed the DEA had stolen from him. Later, the man himself insisted he never snitched a dollar on anyone, despite several claims to the contrary. We get a glimpse into his life in the movie American Gangster and the captivating New York Magazine article, The Return of Superfly by writer Mark Jacobson. Frank Lucas would have spent the rest of his life behind bars, but he decided to save himself by being a snitch. He enrolled in the Witness Protection Program and assisted the DEA in obtaining more than 100 drug-related convictions. His 30-year state sentence and 40-year federal sentence were reduced to time served after 5 years in prison, and he was granted lifetime parole. Lucas was once more apprehended and found guilty in 1984 for attempting to trade 1 ounce of heroin and $13,000 for 1 kilogram of cocaine. He was then released in 1991. Overall, Lucas is said to have emerged from everything quite undamaged and richer. The New York Post claims that Universal Pictures gave Lucas $300,000 in addition to another $500,000 from the company to purchase a home and a new car. Beyond the effects of his infamous blue magic and his return to innocence, you can't deny that he was ultimately a confessed murderer. In some of his final interviews, Frank Lucas toned down some of the bravado, revealing that he only had 1 false bottom coffin manufactured, for example. But unlike other well-known gangsters, he didn't die a drug lord. He passed away in New Jersey in 2019 at the age of 88. His nephew, who gave the media the official death announcement, stated that he passed away naturally. By the time he passed away, he and Richie Roberts, the guy who assisted in his capture, had developed a close friendship. Ironically, Roberts subsequently found himself in difficulty with the law and pleaded guilty to tax evasion. And later in life, Lucas ran some honest businesses. He multiplied his wealth through his dry cleaning company and petrol stations by using his business abilities. He also went into real estate investment, buying acres of land and office buildings. He did turn a corner. Following his release from prison, He lived a life marked by kindness and assistance for young people. He collaborated with his daughter Francine to support and counsel youngsters whose parents were behind bars. From a regular young boy in North Carolina to the biggest kingpin in America to giving back to his community. That's quite the journey of a lifetime. That's all for today. Thanks for watching.